Hey everyone, this is Gavin Stone from Kaiju Labs Media. Welcome you guys to our first actual serious show. We were joking about that in our pre-show thing, because you know us for doing pop culture fun things and jokes and everything like that. But with everything going on in the world today, I thought it would be kind of important for us to get together and talk about a very serious subject that's happening everywhere with the Black Lives Matter movement and the Replace Police movement, and how everyone's becoming more aware of the issues we have in the country. But I wanted to approach it as how is it going to affect pop culture and media, from Hollywood to TV to comic books and so forth. So we thought we really want to get together with some people that we absolutely love in our community and have just a very open discussion with them. But we want to give you guys some disclaimers to begin with. That you may not agree with everything that's going to be said. That's the reason we're having this, is just because we want to have these conversations. So we do invite you to comment, no matter where you're at, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, wherever. Just talk, and we can respond to your questions here. Things will probably be touched on the political aspect. You know how I try to avoid it, but like it was brought up to me, it's going to happen in this topic. So just bear with us. And like I said, you may not agree with everything we say, but we want to have this conversation with you guys. So I just want to welcome everyone to the show. Where do we go from here? We have a great lineup of people for you. I'm your host, Gavin, and as you can see, I am joined by my co-host, Harley, who, as you know, she's part of our crew on a regular basis. Say hi, Harley.
Hello.
I stopped her from drinking. We also have one of our newest family members at Kaiju Lab that I'm absolutely excited to have, Anastacia from Brad's Red Web.
Hey, everybody.
And then when we were thinking about guests to bring on, the first person that was brought up is someone that we know and love. Harley is very enthralled with him. I've met him before. He's amazing. We have Knightmage. So say hi, Knightmage. He's all, hey, I'm here.
Guys.
So
I'm here. Hey.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm glad you guys are all here. I'm really excited to talk about the stuff with you. Like, we have, this is the first time I've actually come up with very thorough show notes. Like I told him before. This is the first time.
I'm the note taker. Gavin provided notes.
Yeah, Harley's always got notes for everything. She usually comes so well prepared. I fly off the seat of my pants because I'm very improvisational, I guess is the right word. And yeah, so welcome to the show, everyone. Let's start with Anastacia. Let's tell everyone a little bit about you, because you're new and everyone knows me and Harley. But tell everyone a little bit about you.
All right. So I am actually the co-host at Brad's Red Web. I go to school for fashion merchandising. I did music and history and all of that other stuff. So, and I've done film, so this is all in my wheelhouse.
Super excited. And then Knightmage, who I have no idea what his real name is, because it's the only way I know him. So forever and a day, you're going to be Knightmage, because if I know you as your code name, that's it forever today. Sorry, dude. So here comes Knightmage.
Handle, Gavin. It's a handle.
Whatever your handle is. Like, I'm a friend I've known since high school that I met at a laser tag.
Well, I'm gonna ruin it for you, because my real name is Michael.
That's fine.
That's my real name.
Accept that one.
You know what? You can call me. No, you can call me whatever you want. Call me whatever you want.
So tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Knightmage.
I'm a cosplayer. Yeah, I'm a cosplayer. I'm a cosplayer since 2012. I'm also a deputy sheriff, so I've been a deputy sheriff since 2000s for 20 years.
Really interesting, man.
I know. Also, I've done work in different Hollywood films, and I'm just an overall geek. That's just me.
It's pretty awesome that we were able to get all you guys together for this. So our establishing question before we go forward, that we really want to establish context for everything we're talking about, is art protected by the First Amendment? So as we go forward, this will be kind of how we refer to things. So let's start with Harley. Is art considered a First Amendment protection?
I feel like it is, because it is something. Art is literally an expression of yourself. It is how you. I mean, it's not speech, but it's still an expression And I always tell people, you have the First Amendment right. You have the freedom to speech, but you don't have the freedom to avoid the consequences of what you come out of your mouth. So
True. Knightmage, let's ask you the same question. Is art considered First Amendment protection?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I have to agree with her. It's the same thing. Like, you have the freedom of speech, but you don't have the freedom of consequences to a job. Like, especially right now with social media, you're seeing a lot of people getting fired, a lot of people getting reprimanded for the things they're saying on social media, and they're kind of trying to reference, that's my amendment. Well, it is, but it's not. Like, so I think it's a lot of people need to kind of realize it's a sticky subject. It's not it's not 100% fluent. So yes, it is protected, but when it comes to when your profession and your business, when you're representing something other than yourself, that's when it becomes a little bit more, and that's when you're not protected. So I think that's where people are kind of misconstruing things.
Good answer. What about you, Anastacia?
Oh, I absolutely agree with both of them. It's like, yes, it is protected, but people kind of have to realize what protections via freedom of speech is.
Yeah.
And it's not freedom from the consequences of public opinion, and it's not freedom from consequences of your jobs or anything like that. It's especially with jobs, because they do have contracts that say otherwise.
True.
So it's one of those yes, but
I get it's a yes, but like I always say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Everyone has a moral compass inside of them, and they know what's right and what's wrong. And yes, there is free speech, but it's just like when you look at these people who want to have their religious freedom. Well, no one's telling you can't practice what you want to practice, but when you're in public, you've got to respect laws because you're not in a world where everyone thinks the same way you do. I think as I went to school to be an animator, so I think art is very much just a different form of speech and expression. So it is protected, but you're right. If you cross a line that should not be crossed because we are all smart enough, or we should be smart enough to know better, then you have to deal with the repercussions of it. So that's a good establishing point for as we go forward, because this is a 4-part show. So the first part, we're going to be talking about the history of media in Hollywood, because there's a lot of things happening as we're looking back at the past and starting to realize there was a lot of serious issues and lack of representation and things like that. And I think the best way to look at it is, have any of you watched that show Hollywood on Netflix?
I still need to watch it.
It's the best idea of what would have happened at a pivotal time had women, people of color, and LGBTQ people took charge instead of letting it go. It's very much an alternate universe. And they do something risky, and it changes the way society is. And I think that point should have happened a long time ago, and I'm surprised it actually hasn't happened already. I just don't get it. So let's look at the first issue. Is the issue of wanting to edit things and censor things from the past more of an issue of telling period pieces, or is it the issue of the Hollywood system of the day? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can if you guys want.
I'll let go with it.
It's like, it's a weird, complicated thing, especially with Gone with the Wind and some of those other specific pieces, because you have to look at how it's or not just is it interpreting the past accurately, but what's the reason we chose to tell this story? Because I mean, this stuff happened back in the 1860s, and this movie came out about the book came out in the 30s, and the actual movie came out closer to the 60s. And it's like and because of the way we because of the way things have been painted over time, it kind of influence. It's like we have to be able to look at it in both of those lenses versus just picking one, or versus just thinking, oh, it's historically accurate because the clothes are nice and all of this other stuff. But we've also kind of, or especially with media, we kind of have a weird relationship with it because it's like, is it purely entertainment? Or in this case, it's not just entertainment. It's like, there's things to learn from it.
Yeah.
We just don't teach the entire context.
It's entertainment versus edutainment, basically.
Yeah. It's like, and we have to kind of, we're at a point now where we're having to figure out, like, how are we going to take these old things and still be able to give everyone the context? Because if I just watch it on TV right now, I'm not going to get the full context.
Knightmage, did you have something to say?
And here's the thing, I think, with especially old school stuff like that is, again, yeah, I agree. It's the context. So doing away with something, I don't think is necessarily disclaimers. This is the time period. This is educating exactly where. And we talk about things that are blatantly, talking about the times. And I'm talking about satire as far as like Blazing Saddles, those type of movies like that, where it directly is speaking to the issue. That's different. That is you don't have to have a disclaimer because it watching it, what the issue is, what's right. But something with like Gone with the Wind, it's a product of its time, and you don't really, out of the context, you don't really understand what is wrong is right. That type of stuff, they do need a disclaimer or something saying this is a product of it. But doing away with completely, honestly, I don't. That is the answer. I think it's more or less we need to teach. It's about teaching what was wrong about it. Like, it happened. It's history. It's all there. It's like the Berlin Wall. Berlin Wall. It was broken down. Like it's down. However, there's parts of it that's still there, and the parts of it is still there is to teach. So that history is still there, so you can teach like why it's still there. So you just totally do away with it. No, you keep a little bit of it, but you teach why it's wrong. You teach why it's not.
You kind of have to adapt.
Way.
Yeah. So. It's like we actually have a piece of the Berlin Wall in Dallas, and it's a piece covered. Yeah, it's actually at a hotel we hold. We used to hold Acon at, but they hold QuakeCon there now. But we have a piece of the Berlin Wall, and there's pictures, and it actually has a whole history section of why and what happened. Because, with people going through and erasing bits of history, we can't educate properly if you're just going through and erasing the problem.
And I think that's what you can't exactly erase the problem. Like we have growing up when I did, hard issue of sugarcoating history. Like we used to sing a song about Columbus sailing the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I can't fathom that we still are in that way. Have we not learned? And so when we ask about the issue of is it period pieces or the Hollywood system of the day, I think it's very much the system of the day. Because you can't really tell a period piece in a way that people are always going to be comfortable with. And the best way to put it is when you look at something like Gladiator, which is very glorified, it's clean, it is what it is. But then you look at something like Passion of the Christ, where he went very realistic with it. That theater could not handle that. Like the theater was full of people, and they could not handle that because it was too realistic.
I remember that. It was intense.
It was super intense, and I love the intense factor. Like, I love Apocalypto. I think that's another one that handles things very realistically. But people can't handle that because you're supposed to be seeing entertained. So how do you balance that line of entertainment versus historical accuracy that's going to please everybody? I don't know if that's really a thing you can do, but for me, it is very much a product of the times because it was very...
You're not.
Right.
Yeah, you can't. It's you can't 100% make everybody happy. You can appease only up to a certain point, and then it becomes, all right, why are we changing the story just to make somebody else happy?
True. So that leads us to the second part of this discussion is, they're now starting to put disclaimers in front of things. And Warner Brothers has done this for a long time because they're like, this is history. We learned from it. It was a very different time, so we can see how far we've come and where we have to go. Is this really going to be a viable option or something that we should be doing for everything now? Like disclaimers before movies that say, hey, know what you're getting into? Or should we just understand that we know what we're getting into? Because we can tell the difference between reality and fiction, but I think when it comes to things that are kind of verging on that point of being very racist and very uncomfortable, we don't know any better because we've had a sugar-coated version of everything.
Well, and I mean, it's such a weird thing to talk about because even talking about Gone with the Wind, it's like I got a very watered down version of why it's important or why it's not great. It's like it was mostly surprise. This is supposed to be an accurate depiction of the South. And then also, oh, the lady who plays Mammy got a Grammy. And that's about, I mean, it's like, if we're just, it's like, to me, having those disclaimers really doesn't cover it. Because if we're just saying, hey, you need to understand this because it's history, it's like no one really knows what they're supposed to be getting out of it. Like, if you watch something like Turner Classic Movies where they actually go through in the middle and explain some of the context, that would be different. Or if people took it more seriously in classrooms, that'd be different. But yeah, just going onto TV saying, hey, Gone with the Wind is on, and they say, hey, this is some real stuff, be warned, it doesn't teach to the same depth that I think that stuff should be taught.
I mean, we have that problem with the education system in general. Yeah. They cover everything over. We were talking about last night, my oldest son has a history book, and in the history book, it legit says that the Native Americans happily gave over their lands for the Pilgrims. And I'm like, I cannot. Anger.
It's wild. Oh, it's wild. Especially in the South. Yeah. We kind of have an issue of how we couch our history.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the key, what you just said. It depends on what the demographic that you're aiming for. So when you're talking about kids, talking about cartoons, doing that, then yes, you absolutely need that disclaimer. You need to teach. When you're talking about movies, 9 times out of 10, it's not kids that are going to be watching those movies. Unfortunately, I say it, but those should know by then what's right, what's wrong, and what they're watching, and they can decipher blah blah. So they should, in a perfect world, should already know. So when you're talking about the cartoons and stuff, yes, those disclaimers. But when you're talking about the movies, like Gone with the Wind and so on and so on, like, just quick, maybe disclaimer at the beginning, that'd be fine. But it's the cartoons that really need to hit home. Because that's those are the people that you're really targeting. That's going to build, impressions on for later years.
I also think a big problem is a lot of people don't realize that it's only been 60 to 70 years since a lot of the major issues. Like another thing people don't realize is the Holocaust happened at the same time as Martin Luther King getting assassinated.
Yep.
I mean, it's a huge, people think these are hundreds and hundreds of years of history gap, but it's not. They happened in the same time period.
Yep. It's always shocking because I tell people it's like
when you think in the grand scope of like time, it's literally like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I think people don't really realize that there are people still alive who've dealt with some of that. I mean, they're really, really old, but I think at the same point, I think disclaimers are important for especially children's products so they understand. But there really shouldn't be those issues in new children's shows, and
there shouldn't, but there is.
There is, and you should also be able to teach your children the difference between real and reality, right and wrong. So I think
you should, but people don't.
It's a sad fact that people don't. So before we get to this next section, Knightmage, you're really lagging pretty bad. Do you want to try to reconnect with your phone?
I can try.
Yeah, so if you want to try to reconnect with your phone, because you're lagging really, really bad, and I want people to be able to hear you and see you. So we'll bring you right back. If you just want to follow the email, just pull it up on your phone. We'll try that option, okay?
My phone usually works better than my computer does anyway.
It's weird. I don't understand that. I guess if you're on a PC or laptop, I think
I'm
gonna try this.
Okay. If not, we'll come back to the computer. So we'll be right back with Knightmage.
All right.
So,
but I mean, it's for me having children and seeing what they are taught versus even some of the stuff I was taught. Like I graduated high school in 2010. It wasn't that long ago.
Same.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 10 years. But seeing what they're teaching kids now versus what even we learned, I mean, it is whitewashed, watered down, and not even right.
And they say it's because history is always written by the victors. And I get it, but I don't get it. It shouldn't be. But that's what people like to hide behind. And I think people who have that real Southern culture, we got to prevent Confederacy flag. There's no reason for that. There is no reason for that because it's a hate symbol. It's like hate symbol.
I was explaining this yesterday. I got a call during one of my classes from Hayes ISD asking me about the high school mascot for the high school down the street. The school's called Jack C. Hayes High School. It is here in Kyle, Texas, and they called and asked, "Hey, how do you feel about our mascot?" And I didn't even know what the mascot was. I had to look it up. It is a Confederate soldier, and he's very cartoonized. He looks like,
that's not
Colonel
terribly
Sanders,
uncommon.
Yosemite Sam. Yeah, he looks like Yosemite Sam, Colonel Sanders kind of thing. But what got me was a picture of the high school football team walking out onto the field holding a Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And they had to tell me that the school's the school song was Dixie.
Oh no!
I was like, oh my.
Oh no.
I was like, I had to look this stuff up while I was on the phone with this lady from the city. And I was like, well, considering the issues that are going on, you might want to change it.
It looks so much better.
Is that better?
So much better.
It's much better. You're not lagging.
Okay, so
our computers just suck.
My computer sucks, apparently.
So let's look at some of these films that are questionable. Like I can't talk to Gone with the Wind because I've never actually watched it. I've had no desire to watch it. My grandma grew up with
it's
that
not
stuff.
the best.
You've never seen Gone with the Wind?
I have never seen Gone with the Wind.
Never watched it.
Oh my god!
Like I have no desires. So what do you?
I've never seen it either. So
I was like, okay, I have seen the one I have seen that I know is a huge problem is Song of the South.
We're gonna talk about
I did
that
watch that as a kid.
All right. So, what do you think the problem with Gone with the Wind is, and what is making it where we have to reevaluate it?
Oh, let's
go. Let's hear this. Come on.
I will admit, full disclosure, the last time I had to think about Gone with the Wind, I was in high school. They made us watch it kind of as a afterthought in the middle of stuff, and it was a massive bore. I didn't like it, but because I try to be consistent, I was watching it before I got here. The biggest, I'm mad about it because I'm only like 2 hours in, and it's a 4-hour movie.
Oh Jesus!
It's wild.
The Titanic effect.
And it's like, it breaks it up into two big narratives, which is that it was a beautiful time and everybody was happy and free, and then those meanie Northerners came in just to be mean and destroy everything. And it's like, that's the broad spectrum of it, is that it just sort of boiled down the whole argument to these people just want to be mean to us and destroy our beautiful, proper way of life. The other thing I noticed, and it could change in the next 2 hours, I don't know. But the other big thing is the way they interpreted the relationship with the slaves. So, you have Mammy, who is very involved in the family, and she can act very sassy and rude to them and have little to no repercussions for it. Yeah. It's like all the men are interpreted as, it's like you got the half that went away to war, and they were just happy to do it because they're all friends with the white folks in the South, or they're just too incompetent to function. It's like,
yeah. So I can see the problems with that one is the simple depictions, because again, they sugarcoated things. That's like we said.
Right. That's me coming from an objective perspective of looking at it. This isn't even me being like, oh my God, look at this.
It's probably something I'm going to go watch, because I heard that they put it back up on HBO Go with a disclaimer, like you had talked about earlier.
I paid for it on YouTube.
So now you gotta watch it.
So let's look at the big horse in the room, which is Song of the South. When was the last time any of us watched that movie?
I watched it about 6 months ago.
Knightmage?
Years.
It's been a minute.
I have a pirated copy of it. Like, I have a pirated copy of Forbidden Zone. They were banned movies, and in high school, I was like, dude, I want to know what a banned movie looks like. And so I got a pirated copy of them both just so I could watch it, because I grew up with the song Zippity Doo Dah, but I could never visually remember seeing, like you always see in the Disney cartoons or the Disney shows, the scene for Zippity Doo Dah, but you don't ever visually remember watching the movie.
Yeah, I
couldn't tell you where it came from for the longest time.
And I remember watching and going, this is what everyone's fussing about, because I thought the cartoon parts are fine, but then I really had to go look it up. And when I realized the history of Uncle Remus and what was going on, I was like, they really kind of jacked themselves in the foot with this one.
Yeah.
It's definitely harder to watch, but I think what it may have going for it that Gone with Wind doesn't have is this is post-slavery. This is when people were supposed to be free, and that's why I think it's portrayed in a kind of a different light. But Disney has a history of racist things in it, so.
Well,
it's kind of like the old Huck Finn.
Yeah, well, and the kind of the tough part, even talking about the Reconstruction era and post-slavery, is that we think that it's like the way people interpret the history is that we had slavery, we ended it, and then just stuff randomly happened in the
Everybody was all happy, like, you know?
Right? No, that's not how it happened.
Right? At least in that time, it's like there were still, it's like, yes, Black folks had a lot more freedom then than they did before, but they, especially in the South, they were still being treated less than human, and they were still being killed, and there was still stuff going on down there that that carried on into the 60s and into now.
Yeah.
Like integration didn't happen until the 70s.
Talking about those movies then, exactly what they were depicting, and showing them now. The important part to me, the important part is showing them now is having someone to articulate and tell why this is wrong. Like, not necessarily just showing it and say, hey, watch this, and just, but show it.
Right.
And someone who's never seen it say, hey, this isn't what happened. This isn't what really, was happening, and this is not how it was, and blah, blah, is showing exactly why what you're saying is not factual or not, not accurate, whatever it is. It's not 100% banning it, but it's just teaching why it's wrong.
So I remember when I grew up, I loved the cartoon segments of that because they would show it every now and then on like random places. I used to love Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox. I didn't think about it any other way as of it's just a rabbit and a fox when I was growing up. And it wasn't until I watched it again like last year when I realized, wow, when you guys were kids, did you guys look at it indifferently, or did you really be like, man, this just really isn't right?
What is it?
When you watch like
Brer Fox and Brer
Rabbit, like the cartoon parts, because Disney would show those all the time. Did you ever think like they were anything other than animals?
I didn't personally, but that's also kind of an indication of the education system. We are taught history, but we're not really taught to think critically about it unless you just have a really out there teacher. Or it's like, and for a lot of people before all of this stuff, or before we really hit the fever pitch in the last like 20 years, we knew things were wrong, but we really didn't know how to articulate it. So I know my parents and my grandparents, they really didn't show me that much stuff. And I really didn't know why, and they really couldn't articulate why. But yeah, I mean, especially with Songs of the South, it's like, I loved the Zippity Doo Dah. And I never...
that was like Disney's jam.
I never dug into it. Right? It's like I never dug into it. I never thought anything of it until I was older and someone was like, do you actually know what Songs of the South is about? And I had to look it up and was like, oh no.
It's kind of like me. I was like...
Brad in the chat said all you ever have was little golden books from those story parts.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Talking about how when she was a kid, she knew it was animals. But
I know it was animals.
But she knew it was
going to say that.
Yeah.
That's what I knew. It was an animal. It's kind of like with Dumbo. I didn't realize the crows were depicting racist. And I just was like, they're birds. They're funny birds.
The only reason
that was the very first thing when they said they were doing a Dumbo remake. I'm like, oh my God.
Are they doing the crows? That was the first thing I asked.
I was like, how are you doing the crows?
Yeah. I was like, they're going to have to do something different. Because the only reason I realized what that was because when I was growing up, my dad was very much a racist, white supremacist type of guy. So he would make jokes about that. And that's how I started learning about there's something not right in some things. So I had a very different view of it growing up when I saw the hatred. I was like, why are you like that? Why is this happening? And so that's why I grew up a little differently than everybody else in my family. But they've come to their senses over the years and they've grown.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
I think that in itself is an interesting topic because most people who do grow up in that type of environment adapt that environment. So what made you stray from it, one, and then what made you, like your family, because you said they kind of strayed from that too. What made them stray from it?
So my dad was a member of the John Hirsch Society when I was a kid. And he was they were East Texas. They were white. And I always realized that I didn't agree with the things that they thought or felt, because when I looked at people when I was a kid, all I saw was people. I didn't see skin colors. I didn't see gender. I didn't see nationality. I just saw people. Like, I was friends with everybody. And my dad would have some problems with that. And we really butted heads a lot. But as I left, I mean, once I graduated, I just up and left. My dad got mixed up with Alex Jones, and he started doing TV stuff. You know, but going into TV and getting into the politics side of things that he was doing, he started being exposed to way more than he was comfortable with, and he realized that for years he had this wrong idea of things because that's how he was raised. I did not see things that way. That's why we had such a disconnect between me and my family for the longest time. Like, I didn't really reconnect with him until my son was born. John is listening. So it was hard growing up in that environment and seeing things, and then deciding this isn't how I want to be. Like I say, my parents were the best say no campaign ever, because they did all sorts of drugs and crazy stuff. And everyone's like, why did you do drugs? Well, because I've seen what it does to you. It was that type of thing. I saw how unhappy they were and the hatred they would have. There was no reason for it. That's how I grew up differently than they did. But he adapted, and now his best friend is a little black gay Republican gun owner guy. Like, that's his best friend. So I love seeing how far he has come for the longest time. And like, when I got with Phil, he couldn't talk to Phil for 2 years because he had to adapt and get comfortable with the idea that his world is expanding. So I am very happy with that kind of things. And so that was my first. He was making fun of the racist crows and saying some things that just should not have been heard of. That's when I realized there's a disconnect between me and the rest of my family. It lasted for a while. So that's how it came to be. And my dad will tell you his story. He'll tell you all the time his story from beginning to end. But he has come a long way. And if I look at if he can do it, anybody can do it, because my dad was a hard head. My cousins are watching right now. They can tell you what hard head he was. Yeah.
The one thing with everything that's going on right now, I know we're not trying to get political, but with the whole like Black Lives movement and stuff going on, the one thing I do love, like, is a lot of people putting themselves out there that they have a lot to lose. Like, a lot of people like supporting the movement and just kind of being vocal. They're losing business, they're losing money, they're losing fans, they're just losing a lot of different things, and they're putting themselves out there for this movement, and that's pretty awesome. That speaks a lot, that a lot of people now are kind of saying, like, okay, there is an issue here. And
right. It's been a big change in the last 10 years.
Right.
It's been a huge change.
I can understand having pride in where you come from, but like I said when we started, we live in a world where not everyone believes the same thing you believe in. We respect each other. I will respectfully disagree with you. You will respectfully disagree with me. But at the end of the day, it's about doing what's right, and understanding that I cannot believe we're still having this argument about race and sexual identity, all this stuff in today's day and age. Like, we should have evolved past this,
Well past it.
Yeah, like Darla's talking, she grew up in a home like I did, and she diverged as well. She was like, this just isn't me. So yeah, that's
like I grew up, when we came back from Japan, I grew up in a poor neighborhood on the black side of the tracks in Pearl, Mississippi. I mean, I grew up around people of color. I didn't know there was an issue. I really didn't.
Yeah, and that's just the way a lot of us grew up. And I think we're seeing people who grew up like us now saying, hey, let's help get this changed. Like,
yeah, like my biggest picture that I've gotten from this is not only the older people going with protest signs saying, I'm still protesting this 70 years later, I cannot believe this, but it was a man in a wheelchair that's holding a sign that says Black Lives Matter, and another sign he has says, "Sorry, I was wrong. It took me a while to get here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That picture speaks amazing words.
So
that picture, and there was that picture hits home, and there was another picture. Well, it was a story of a girl, like she was talking about her grandmother, and her grandmother was talking about how she protested back in the civil rights movement and stuff. And again, you talked about this earlier of how, dude, that was only like 60 years ago. Like,
yeah,
honestly, that's not a long time. Like, that's not a long time at all. And it's just crazy to think that, like, we've come so far. I'm not gonna lie, we've made so much progress, but there's just, I don't know, there's just so much more.
That can't be done. It's like my one regret in this entire thing is I have a small child, so I'm not going out to protest.
That's okay.
I can't risk my safety for him. So, I mean, that's my one regret. But the one thing I do is anytime I see one of my friends say something that shouldn't be said, I speak up immediately. I'm like, hey, I don't know where you think you're coming from, but you need to stop, take a look back.
Right. Well, and I think what's kind of helped move things along a little bit more is, I mean, the first instance of Black Lives Matter taking root was about 10 years ago. I remember
it.
Fighting and protesting this stuff all the time. And it's like, civil rights movement and segregation and stuff was my grandpa's age. And, we're far enough displaced from that we don't have to really see it personally. And to have this little 10-year gap where everyone has to deal with this stuff and realize that nothing's really changing has kind of turned a lot of people around on we can compare, instead of comparing it to 60 years ago or 80 years ago, now we can compare it to nothing's changed in the last 10 years. We have to do something now. Yeah.
So, I know on a Knightmage, you brought up, people being responsible and getting fired and stuff. It's like there is a whole Facebook group that is nothing but dedicated to, here's a screenshot of this racist thing somebody said. Hey, BT Dubs, they got their job on there. You might want to email that to their workplace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I actually part of that group because I like watching it.
Let's go into part two.
I think it's awesome. Like, I honestly, I tell people at work because, like I said before, I'm in law enforcement, 20 years, and I think that we do, and with law enforcement in general, we just need accountability, and that's what this entire thing is about. Like, at the core, that's just what it's about. It's not necessarily a 100% Black Lives Matter
it's
movement,
not supremacy or anything.
But it's just strictly a police brutality issue. So
stop killing people.
Across the board, we need accountability. I know, and I always tell people I work with, look, we live in a day and age where what you say, it's not private. You know what I'm saying? You can comment on my stuff or you comment on some of the stuff, but someone's going to see it.
We live in the
I love that. I want people to talk more because that's going to weed out who shouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I honestly, I encourage people. Say exactly what you mean, because I don't want you there. If that's how you feel, then you're going against exactly what I'm fighting for. Why I do the job day in and day out. So all you want, weed those people out, and let's reform. Let's start from the bottom and
work our way
build
back
up how it's supposed to be.
And at this day and age, it's like we're all old enough and have dealt with enough stuff that, if you're at the point where you want to say something wild online in public in front of people, that's on you at this point.
Like I say,
you deserve it.
To hit me, you're big enough to hit right back. So the repercussion of what you're doing. So we're going to get into part 2 of our show where we're talking about the present, where now that things are coming to light, we're taking a really hard look at how things are and what happens now. Let's start with representation of film. I mean, it's starting to get better, but do you think this is going to kickstart Hollywood and bring forth a whole bunch of new voices, or are we expect more normal? Uh-oh. I think he's there.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
So let's start with you, Harley. Do you think we're going to get a whole bunch of new voices for Hollywood and media because of this?
I mean, I've already seen it in the voice acting community that we're getting new voices. Like, up until a couple years ago, I could only list 1 or 2 people of color that voice anime characters, and now we have so many. Like, representation was not something you saw often. Like, up until Sam Jackson was Nick Fury, I can't think of a black superhero.
Well, yeah,
and now we have them
stereotypical, like Black Thunder, stuff like that.
I couldn't even think of Black Thunder.
Static Shock.
Static Shock.
Okay, Static Shock. I did like. I did like me some Static Shock as a kid.
I'm hoping.
Oh no, we lost Knightmage.
I'm hoping that this will bring forth some new voices and stories that have been needing to be told. I think the diversity in Hollywood and media as a general in Hollywood has sucked, but it's been really good on streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. So I wasn't quite sure where that disconnect was, but hopefully it starts to merge out of the streaming area into the real world.
I feel it will. I mean, we've already gotten so many good things now. Yeah. I mean,
Brad said Blade. Don't forget Blade either.
Oh, no, yeah, I actually have never seen those movies. I'm a bad person. I'm going to watch them eventually.
It's worth it.
Well, eventually I'll watch.
Or no, but I mean, God, I need to read. I can't see.
Yeah, I can pull them up now. Yes, Blade.
Well, there's the question.
I don't think Green Hornet was originally black, but I know my favorite Green Lantern's black.
Right, and Spawn.
Oh wait! The original Captain America was a black guy. I have to say that. Sorry, original Captain America, not Steve Rogers.
Yeah. So, here he is. I think he's back. I'm excited to see what comes from more voices and more stories and more cultures in Hollywood. Because, like I said, it's killing it on streaming services. Like, I love the sheer variety of stuff you could find when it's not reality shows like Circle. Because one
thing I'm really excited is how unwhitewashed the last couple of Disney movies have been. Well, I was extremely excited with Aladdin. The only white guy was literally the comic relief.
Right. Well, and at least the changes I've noticed now, like, one, just because I see it on the topics up there, I will sneak by and watch kid shows, and kid shows are totally different from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I now see the diversity of the characters my kid is watching.
Right. It's amazing. And some of them are like Craig of the Creek. I'd been watching that all week, and I'm like, that is wild. That is stuff.
I mean, Adventure Time. Adventure Time had weird characters. I mean, Steven Universe, the new She-Ra. I mean, it gave new old ideas, a new facelift to match the demographic. Like my kid loves Doc McStuffins. His dad threw a fit because he wanted a Doc McStuffins doll. He's like, why do you need a little girl? Why do you need a girl's doll? Why don't you want the white girl doll? And he goes, because that's not Doc McStuffins.
Exactly.
Right. Also, who cares?
Who cares? Give him the damn doll. He's happy.
So, one of the things, as we're talking about Inclusion Day, is I hate to refer to it this way, but there's a rise of cancel culture. I don't know how else to refer to it. And so with the Black Lives Movement happening, there's also this cop movement happening, and now they're starting to attack things with police officers in it. like Lego pool sets that had cops.
Don't get me started.
They targeted Paw Patrol. So this is for Knightmage. with this happening, how long till we're not going to have any more NCIS shows? When they start pulling those 20 different series off the air, like, what do you think is going to happen on the other spectrum with you're looking at cop type shows?
All right, that was Emily this time.
Give me a minute.
Do you need me to ask you the question again?
It's like you look so intense with your contacts staring at the camera, and I'm like, that's great.
I think he had a phone problem, which is why he's back on his laptop. He might not be able to hear us correctly. So,
yeah, I was very angry at grown. I'm gonna say a bad word. But
I can hear you.
I was very angry at grown ass adults messing with kids shows, and some of the comments I saw. I don't know if they were joking comments, but some of the comments I saw as a parent on a kids show like Paw Patrol, like they need to euthanize the German Shepherd, and I'm like, you're a grown ass adult. You can handle this better.
Right.
I understand that he's a police dog, and I know it's the stereotypical thing. All white women sit in a room and watch serial killer movies like NCIS and stuff. But I'm sorry, I can't remember I think it's Blue something, but it's got Terry Crews in it as a police officer.
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods, yes, thank you. There is an episode.
Oh, okay. It's another show.
There is an episode of Blue Bloods that is circulating on the internet about Terry Crews. His daughter loses her stuffed bunny, and
that's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
He goes out to find it, and he gets stopped by another officer, and he pulls a gun on him and puts him in handcuffs, and he literally just goes through this, and the fact that he has to tell his children this. And like, for me, my kids won't ever have that issue. They're white as they can get. But for me, the idea that some child out there
will ever have that issue.
Okay, they probably will. I have boys. I mean, I know I know dads that say they're so excited for their daughter to date so they can pull a gun on my kid. And I'm like, I'm going to mess you up.
So I want to go to Knightmage to talk about this topic because he works in the field and he sees what's going on. What do you think is going to happen to representation of the police forces and media right now? Like, how far do you think people are going to let things go? Because they're calling for defunding, they're calling for all these things, and I think you brought up a good point earlier that there needs to be some reform. But when you're looking at how cops are portrayed in TV shows, both good and bad, where do you think the line is going to be drawn?
All right, so I think with the Paw Patrol and looking at the police shows and stuff like that, that's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. That's TV. That's reality. That's movies. It's not reality shows. It's not what reality really is. Reform. Actually, very hard defund as far as recalculating like funds to different social services. Like one of the big things you actually hear is like police are teachers, they're social workers, they're this and they're that. What defunding the police basically is allocating those funds to those services where you don't have to be a social worker, you don't have to be this, and you don't have to be that. I mean, obviously you need the police there. You need some type of law enforcement. You need that for violent situations and stuff like that. But the police, I think that's where people are not really understanding what defunding the police is. It's just not giving. How can I put it? It's not giving law enforcement that much power. They might not be 100% educated with or just 100%, for. Irregardless, I just think that we do too much spreading it, and I think will actually help everything across the board. Yeah.
So, what about the representation of the way cops portrayed in media, like TV and film? Do you think they're going to start targeting those things next for some major reform?
I guess going back to, I'm so lagging. This sucks. I'm lagging. So going back to the whole like Paw Patrol. Oh, there you go. You just came back. Going back to the Paw Patrol. Again, I don't think that like. Listen, like me personally, I was actually on an episode of Live PD, and since that's now been canceled, I'm not going to be on it. Me personally, do I think it would have been beneficial for just the people to see that, setting? Yes, I do. But canceling everything that has enforcement to me is just the wrong move. You're just canceling everything. You're canceling all the bad out there, but you're also canceling the good. Yeah. I hate to say it, but the whole there's bad apples. It actually has a little bit of merit. Like, there's bad apples, but it doesn't always spoil the bunch. Like, you have to actually look at the entire bunch and cancel them and call them out and so forth. But you have to actually look at the bunch too, because that's where it's at. It's always going to be, more than bad. So you always have to on that. So let's focus on the good.
Yeah. And I think people don't like focusing on the good, because this goes to the last question of our today topic is, we live in an age of what I like to call the disinformation internet. Now, does this help or hurt these causes? And are they just too easy to jump on a bandwagon without really understanding anything?
I personally feel they're more than happy to jump on a bandwagon if it's going to get them followers on the internet.
How sad is that? I can't believe I have to say that out loud. That's
I cannot believe I have to say that out loud, but this day and age, I unfortunately have to say it out loud.
It's like that episode of Black Mirror where your whole life was based on your social media status. I
mean, it happens.
I think it's so easy to spread misinformation, and you never can really tell fully what's going on until you actually go and do your research. Like, I love Snopes. Snopes is one of my favorite things. Like, go look, it's true or false. They usually can tell you. And it astounds me how much false information just gets thrown around in this political climate from these past 4 years. I'm just going to leave it at that. But what do you think, Anastacia?
It's been interesting having to see everything together, because it's like, especially when it comes to these intense issues like this, there's a lot of stuff that likes to get blended together. So you have the people who are actually arguing about something, and then you have the people who are intentionally trying to divert from stuff, which that's firmly what I think the Paw Patrol thing is. It's them trying to divert from the actual issue and also do the slippery slope thing where it's like, oh, well, if we get rid of cops, what's next? Are they going to get rid of that? And because people don't have that extra context of going backwards and seeing like where this is from and seeing the arguments this is from, they just sort of take it at face value and they're like, oh my God, they're canceling Paw Patrol now. And it's like, it's hard because especially on the internet, we can't trace it back as well as we used to. Yeah. It's like we can't trace it back to this one person.
Yeah, it's like the one picture that they overly circulate of the little boy
what you're
that's hugging her.
Keep
That's
going.
right. You said it. Okay, I was like, it's the picture of the little boy that's hugging the police officer and he's crying.
Oh, that one's so sad.
It is a completely staged photo. His white foster family made him take that picture, and a couple days later, they loaded him and his siblings into a car and drove him off the damn cliff.
Or well, it's a couple years difference, but it's still
still a thing. It's
happened in the
internet day and age of here's a picture that should make you feel good. This is why we should stop talking about this issue, but they don't take the time to research that picture and realize what actually happened.
Here's the problem, I think, with social media is, and I actually made a post about today, like, we are the media now. So the things that we post have to be factual on it. We have to be able to back up what we're sharing and posting about, and be able to articulate it, because the days of just blaming the media of just information and stuff, that's over. Like, this, it's on us now. It really is 100% on us. So just like that photo, like you said, it's an awesome photo. It's a beautiful photo, but you know what? It takes 2 seconds to just do a little research on that photo and find out, oh man, that's jacked up.
There's some serious.
No, I don't support that. It's an awesome photo that we need to really start doing. It's like really researching what it is that we're supporting.
Right. And it's like the history thing. It's like we're taught to take a lot of things at face value. So when we see stuff like that, we don't think, oh, we need to look at this deeper. It's like we're
not taught to question.
Yeah, we need to get in the habit of actually looking through it. Yeah.
And that's a problem. Like, a lot of people they go to these, like, some stories will look 100% legit, but then you kind of got to look at the site it comes from. You're like, this can't possibly be real. And
like, I forget to read the website sometimes, and I'll read an Onion article and I'll be like, really? Yeah. Somebody's really this damn dumb? And I look up and I was like, oh, thank God it's the Onion.
I love when people think the Onion is real. Like, in the Babylon Bee, which is like the Christian version of the Onion, they write some funny stuff too, and people think that's real. I'm like,
yeah.
It just it takes me a minute sometimes, and I'm like, I get very worked up over something I've read, and I'm like, oh wait, it's on a joke site. Never mind.
Yeah, but there's just so much of it out there, and Knightmage had a point. We are responsible for our social media, and Harley has a point. People want to be sensational. They want people to get that first click and that first like, and it's companies behind this as well. And I learned this when we first started, because we used to show like trailers and stuff, and no matter what show we would do, IGN would claim everything, so we couldn't show our show because they wanted people to click their stuff first. And I fought that for a year before they stopped, and now we're left alone. But it's people want that. I want your eyes first, because literally everybody just looks at your social numbers. It's stupid, but that's what they look at. And
Knightmage knows this with cons. You are only worth how many numbers you have as a cosplayer. They won't bring you in, even if you are like the best, unless you have a certain number of followers, so they can get asses in seats.
That's panels. I understand there's a business side to things, but social media is free. There should not be a business to it. And I like the fact that they're starting to take more responsibility for things. Like, I tried to click a link the other day and said, this is fact checked to be proven wrong. It was like our first time. I was like, what? Yes, do it. Knightmage. Oh, I thought he had something to say. Sorry.
No, I was saying, I was just saying that she's right. I know I'm lagging. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Terrible connection. But,
you're good. You're good.
Right. Going back to, we're starting into a lot of people are here to talk about these issues and stuff. They're afraid of getting blacklisted from different conventions because stuff like that. And to be honest with you, like, I encourage people to do it because people want to see the real side of you. People want to see like the human side of you. People want to see that you are more than just a song and dance.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with that,
so to speak. So I encourage people to do it, but it is definitely 100% is a concern right now.
Well, the last question I want to ask to this part, which I got an answer for today, is what do you think is happening right now where it is all becoming front and center? Because this has happened for a while, but now we've got more of the Me Too's coming up. We've got more of the BLMs coming up. We've got the whole cop reform. People are really examining the social structure of things, and it's because of COVID. We're at home now. We're realizing things we can and can't live without. We're starting to open our eyes more outside of the consumerism culture, and we understand we're not the greatest country in the world. We're close, but we have a shit ton of work to do.
We got nothing better to do. Might as well start a revolution.
Is that what's happening right now? Because people are at home and they can realize things more. They have more time, and they can have more time to dedicate to these causes. I'm all for it. Maybe we should just have a COVID every year and see what happens till we get everything straightened up.
COVID revolution, let's go.
I mean, it's weird coming. It's weird coming from the perspective of someone who's had to do all this stuff, because I'm like, it hasn't really changed much for me. Like, there's a lot of outside people who it's changed for them, and I think it's because we're not caught up with working all the time, or we're not caught up with jumping from things to things. Now we have time to absorb that media and think about it more.
Yeah.
And I hope that starts to happen. Like, labor-wise, people are talking about, do we really need to do 40 plus hours a week? Because now they're seeing the difference between when they were working constantly and now. And it's like, I am all for it.
Yeah, I think as much as 2020 has sucked, this is a good, as long as it produces the right results, this is the proper thing. This is the greatest thing that could have ever happened. Yep. I'm just afraid of it backsliding and not going anywhere. And we're stuck in this vicious loop that we're going to talk about on Sunday's Pride show. There's a vicious loop going on. So that takes us to our last part of the show, because we're on our last 20 minutes here. And this is going to be the future and beyond. And so we want to look at how the industry and the pop culture landscape changes from here, from conventions to comic books and everything else. Let's start with the first topic. Are we going to see period pieces anymore that deal with these tough and difficult subjects? And will people be able to enjoy them without being ostracized or classified as racist or whatever?
It depends on why they like it. It's like it's like I think we're in a kind of an adapt or die situation where, again, my ideal is that people is that these are going to be put in places where we can take it more seriously and think about this kind of stuff. But I know there are a lot of people who are just like, just leave it as it is, put it on, leave it wherever it needs to be, even though, it got taken off of HBO, and who cares? It's on 40 different things now.
But I was thinking, what is Quentin Tarantino going to do if he can't tell weird ass period pieces? Like,
I mean, it's almost over for him. Like, he said this movie was his last movie, so
we'll see what happens.
We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it.
If someone has an amazing story to tell, and it happens to be in a period piece, and they have to balance that, what do people want to watch versus what a reality is? Are we just not going to go back and tell these stories anymore? Will they all have to have?
I don't think so. It's like, I don't think this stuff's ever going to go away, because there's still stuff you can get out of some of these movies. They just need to kind of adapt and change what they're going to do with them.
Or do it right.
You know what? I hate to bring it up, but like Jordan Peele. So he has a story to tell. and he's invigorating a genre,
Mhm.
but he's reinvigorating it in a way of race, and honestly, even the Watchmen series. There's a way to tell these stories and tell a really good story, but have commentary with it. And I think that's the key is not doing just movies to do them, not just having dialogue, but actually having a story and telling, and making you think like, holy crap, like
Get Out got me.
Right. And
there's
it's
a
I
point
think
there. You know what I mean? That right, exactly. I say that's why we're real.
Yeah, I was like, that was something I was not expecting, and the way he told that story, just really as somebody that doesn't face these issues, like I really started noticing other things that I don't usually notice in movies like that.
Right.
I enjoyed Us. No, I enjoyed Get Out. Us, I thought was pretty good. Didn't enjoy as much as Get Out, and I like he's prime example of what we could get from a new genre of Hollywood, and I want to see way more of it. But I want them to do it respectfully and in a good way, like he does it. I don't want them to take it to a point of I'm doing this just because I want to do this. Screw you.
Lovecraft Country is going to be awesome.
I personally feel that if they're going to tell these stories, if you are a white person telling these stories, you need to have a historian. You need to have people of color being, an advocate with you, and they need to be able to step in and go, hey, we see your story. It's a good story. Let's change this so it's not as offensive.
Yeah, you should totally have things like that, but we know it's not going to happen right over the way.
Oh yeah, right. No, it's never going to happen right on when it happens.
But this also leads to the writers. I mean, everyone has to write these stories. Well, we now have people with these stories who don't want to take them anywhere. And maybe this is going to grow up in the indie market where there's going to be a whole weird I don't know where I'm going with this. Like a subgenre of indie movies of people who want to tell the story but are too afraid to tell it in the system. Like, I worry that we're going to get to this point where everything's going to have to be fact-checked, politically correct, and that's not what entertainment's meant to be. I understand that yes, there should be accountability and there should be people looking at it who are really invested. But it's art at the end of the day, and art is very different for every single person. And
it's I'm taking I'm taking an intro to theater class, and I've learned just in the last week, we went over the topic of racial theaters and the difference of on Broadway and off Broadway. But there's a whole nother genre of Broadway I never learned about off Broadway. And it's people that don't want to take it, from, they feel like their story can't be told. They take it to an off Broadway production theater, and it can be anything you want. It could be topics that are hard hitting. Yeah. It could be, racial or sexual in the manner, and they get those stories out there. So I mean, that is in a sense still media as as an indie production.
So my next question is for Knightmage. I want you to kick this one off because I'm all about originality. I think you should create something original over doing something old, and we have a really bad habit of taking old things and recasting, rebooting them in today's eye. Like She-Ra's a prime example. Marvel Comics started recasting most of their staple heroes as people of color and different races and genders and ethnics. And I'm okay with that to a degree, but I would rather see something new, whereas we let the past just kind of be the past and create something new. Do you agree with me or you disagree?
It depends on the property. Some properties can be like, honestly, he's Spider-Man, and to honestly a generation that he is their Spider-Man. Like Miles Morales is amazing. He's an amazing character. Where you took that character and was based on a property, but you made it fit to a generation that can date. So it depends on the property. Some properties work where you can and then some that no. You just need to create new stuff. In general, I do think that we do. There just needs to be new creations. There needs to be new properties. But I'm totally not against remaking a existing property as long as it fits and it's done right. Like honestly, like Miles honestly to me is the blueprint. Like there is nothing like there's no flaw in Miles' story. That to me is just the perfect way into this generation and making a new Spider-Man. Like to me is brilliant.
I agree with you on that one. Anastacia, how do you feel about this topic?
I mean, it's like it's still interesting because there are a lot of quintessential characters, especially talking about comic books that had to kind of change. I mean, you've got 2 Green Lanterns. Now you have Steve Rogers, and now you have the Falcon as Captain America. It's like it's one of those. It's not a terribly alien concept.
Yeah,
but actually talking about our show last week, the problem with getting a lot of new characters is that the pipeline to get from original character to something popular or manageable is a lot harder than some of these older properties. And so it's like a lot of people are needing that kind of leg up to get to where we need to go. But I think once it gets easier for people, it'll be easier to get all those original characters. We're just at that point right now where, we could have had a movie about the Falcon, but Captain America is much more profitable. So we kind of need that stepping stone right now. Because it's like we're at the point where we're more open to it and we're proving that this stuff is selling, but we're not there yet where someone could come up with an interesting new character and you have a decent chance of blowing up.
Brad just commented and echoed exactly what Knightmage said. He said, sometimes it's just a publicity stunt and cheapens legitimate diversity elements. You can't just cut and paste minorities without giving it genuine forethought. And I think that happens more often than not. Because Knightmage is right. Miles Morales was a very brilliant templated blueprint on how to do it. But I think they're just trying to rush this kind of stuff out with things because we only have about 10 minutes left, actually about 9 minutes left. I wanted to get into the areas that haven't been targeted just yet, but like video games starting to be targeted now, more with the behind Me Too stuff. There's also comic books and books themselves. So how do you think these are going to fare in the wake of this avalanche that's coming?
So, I mean, we have I follow a lot of manga. I mean, I'm obviously the anime nerd, but I mean, we have new representation for minorities. I mean, even as far as My Hero Academia, they have a very African American man in Rocklock. He's, to me, I didn't think very much of him. I was like, oh, okay. And then I had to go back and think, this is Japan. There's not much representation for African American people. And for them to put two major heroes as African American characters and, their counterparts being villains or white people, I thought that was freaking amazing. Like, Miles Morales is my favorite Spider-Man. Sorry, Brad, I really hate Peter Parker. But, I mean... I was like, I don't like Peter Parker. But I mean, I feel it is fantastic to see new representation for different people. We aren't getting the same crap of, hey, look, the good character is a white person, the bad character is a black person. I mean, it's changing up. Like, one thing that got me is, I hate to say it, is Tim Burton's Miss Peregrine's School for Children. I loved the book.
I haven't seen that.
I read the book, girl. Go watch it. I'll read you the books too. But I mean, they put Samuel L. Jackson in, and don't get me wrong, he played a fantastic character. Like, but it was white kids versus a big black guy.
True.
And I felt that was a bad, horrible representation.
Right. Well, and I mean, Brad brought up a good point that there's a big split between the representation of, you know, this is people trying to tell their own stories versus people thinking, oh, well, these black people sell, so let me throw a black person in there. And we're at the point now where we've seen enough stuff where we can sniff the difference out now. It's like,
I like that Brad tells me he loves me anyway, and then he asked me which Peter Parker I hated.
We're at a point where we can sniff out the difference now, where we can see something and be like, this isn't being genuine. I
am excited for new representation. Like, I am excited to see, I know Storm is not a new character, but I am excited to see her be a character that matters.
Right.
Yeah. Knightmage, you want to weigh in on this before we run out of time?
No, I just echo exactly what they just said. Like, I'm excited for all the new representation of these characters coming to life. I think with every day, like the whole genre and comic cons and just cosplay and just movies, people are getting more excited and more people are getting more drawn to it. The more people get drawn to it, or they understand it, like, oh man, okay, yeah, Storm, like, heard of her, but she sounds like a badass. Like, I want to see her on screen. Oh my god, she's on screen. Like, she is so awesome. Like, that is what's going to bring it home. Is actually just saying, you know what? Let's just bring these characters to the forefront and let them do their thing. Let them, you know, let their powers and let their abilities speak for themselves. People will.
I am excited about the wave of change coming to me by all this, because it's high time. I want everyone to be able to see themselves in everything, because one of the things that really opened my eyes was, I asked Courtney one time why she wanted to do a show that she was doing. She said, because when I grew up, I looked at TV and I didn't see myself there. And I think that's an important thing to help our society become more unified, is if everyone can see themselves in whatever they watch on TV or in a video game or read in a comic book or see at a convention. I'm really excited for that to come. So having said that, I want to thank you guys, because we're out of time, for being on our show. I hope everyone that watched, we had a lot of interactions with people, just chatting away and agreeing. We are at a good time for this change to happen. So before we go, where can they find you online, Knightmage?
You guys can find me on Twitter, or Knightmage on Facebook. Knightmage1 on.
We're gonna put that online.
And you, Anastacia, where can they find you?
You can either watch me on Tuesdays at Brad's Red Web, or you can follow me on Twitter at BTB Inc.
So thank you both for being on the show. I love talking to you. This was so much fun, and I'm very happy that we got to pull out this show off.
I'm very excited to be able to do this show with you guys.
Don't forget, we're doing a Pride show on Sunday at 2 with a professor from England and our LGBTQ crew on Kaiju Labs, including Brad. And in about a half hour, you can watch a brand new episode of Super Gamer Bros. We have a lot of video game news to talk about. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys again immensely for being on. Let's hope this sticks and everyone becomes better. So thank you guys for watching. Hope. And go to Kaiju Labs Media, all of our social media, our website to get the schedule of our shows that are happening. And just huge shout out to Knightmage for coming with us today to do this. And Anastacia, you are an amazing voice. I'm so happy you're part of our family. I'm so happy Brad's part of our family. We're going to have lots of fun going forward. And thank you, Harley, for being my co-host on this. I could not imagine a better person to do it with because we didn't break down into pumpkin spice. So, hey.
Thank God.
So thank you, everyone, again. Thank you guys for watching. We are tuning off. We're about out of time on TV, so we're about to tune off right now. Like I said, stay tuned in about 30 minutes. There's a brand new Super Game Bros online. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.